10 Things Professional Actors Don't Do. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly beautiful, talented wife, Brooke. You knew it was coming. And now on to our topic. 10 Things Professional Actors Don't Do. Before we jump into the 10 points, let's first talk about what is a professional actor. Well, if you're in the United States, some people might say it's when you join SAG-AFTRA. Others might say it's when you're making most of your money from acting jobs. Still others might say it's when you book that first professional full-budget TV show or film. So while there may not be a consensus on when an actor makes that transition into becoming a professional, if you consider yourself a professional or aspire to become one, then these are 10 things that we believe professionals do not do. Now, for the astute actor, you already know where this is going. In the title card to this section, we spelled principal wrong. Many actors on their resumes don't know how to spell the word principal. So in your film section, for instance, if you have listed instead of the role name the word principal, great. Just make sure you spell it right. It's always principal. That is a person. A principal, P-L-E, is a standard by which you live. Always spell it P-A-L at the end. I've seen actors even spell it both ways on the same resume. Eek. So if you've been acting long enough to consider yourself a professional, you should be well past making this mistake. Casting directors know this all too well, but newbie actors don't always know this. The past tense of the word cast is cast. You were never casted in that indie project last summer. No, you weren't. You were cast in that project. It is always the word cast. There is no other form of the word cast. If you're going to become cast, if you were cast, if you are cast, it is always C-A-S-T. There is never an E-D at the end. So if you want to be considered a professional, then when using the past tense form of cast, it's always cast. To be considered a professional, you need to exude professionalism. A big part of this is being early to your call time. Not too early, of course, but arriving 5 to 15 minutes before your scheduled call time is always a good idea. Now, keep in mind, they can't put you to work before your scheduled call time unless they want to alter your call time on their Schedule G, which is just a whole nother issue altogether. But just know you'll make a great impression to that base camp PA if you arrive early. Oh, and incidentally, this also applies to auditions, callbacks, fittings, table reads, and every other part of your career. Be on time, which means be early. In the beginning, actors tend to apologize way too much. Some actors continue this throughout their entire careers, unfortunately, and it is a turnoff. Don't get me wrong, if you're violating the previous point and showing up late to an audition or to set, then yes, please apologize for messing up their schedule. But, never apologize for your art. Actors are notorious for apologizing if they flub a line or if they had a false start or if they just perceive that the take they just laid down was not good enough. So if you trip up on one line, don't apologize. No one's expecting perfection, but the newbie expects perfection of themselves and is constantly apologizing for their art. The pro knows that art is not perfect. Art is messy, and we're all collaborators. So don't apologize unless you're late or... This is a big one. Since there is no barrier for entry into this industry, no SAT or MCAT or minimum GPA requirement, it means that people from all walks of life can pursue acting, and there's no one to tell them they can't or shouldn't, which can be a good thing. But the vast majority of actors, and I do mean vast majority, don't have the discipline, persistence, and patience to do what it takes to become a professional actor. So to separate yourself out as one of the pros, always show up prepared. You should endeavor to know more about your character than everyone else. At your self-taped audition, you should certainly know more about your character than the reader does. That's a big one. You should do research on the project, especially after you've booked the job and are headed to set. And you should be armed with ideas for your character and for the scene or scenes that you'll be in, because after all, you are a collaborator. You are a professional. Look, I get it. When it's your first time on a professional set, it feels like that first trip to Disney. I mean, you want to take photos of everything and of every cast member because the workers at Disney are called cast members. But if you've been doing this long enough to consider yourself a professional, it's time to take stock of your habit of picture taking. Because if you've been doing this for a number of years and consider yourself a professional, but you're still taking photos of everything and everyone, then you look like a tourist. You're not acting like you belong there. You're shouting to everyone around you, hey, I'm new at this, so I'm going to take a picture of every single moment to document this experience forever. What's that? I signed an NDA saying I can't do that? Whoops. Hey, can I get a photo anyways? Think of it this way. If the number one on the call sheet isn't taking photos, and that's where you want to be one day, then maybe start emulating that type of behavior. Act like you belong there. Because you do. You booked the job. You've been invited to the party. You're a professional. Closely related to the previous point is posting too much on social media or prematurely on social media. Professional actors are well aware of the NDA that they signed that first day they were on set, which almost always explicitly states that you cannot post anything about the project until after it airs. Now, some contracts have varying language in relation to this, so always be aware of what your contract states as it relates to social media posting and sharing what you did on the project. Additionally, professional actors don't post about every audition they get or every deal memo they receive. Because once you've been doing this long enough to consider yourself a professional, these events are normal, especially auditions. So you should feel no need to post about them incessantly. And once again, some of the stuff you are legally prohibited to post. So, check your contract. Some actors think that embellishing their resume will be a shortcut, and some have even been advised to do this by others in the business. But just assume you will always get caught, because there are far too many anecdotes of actors getting caught in the lies they've put on their resumes. I once heard the story of an actor who had lied about doing a certain play at a certain theater, and they just happened to be auditioning one day for the artistic director of that theater during that time frame, and they got called out on that lie. So the risk of lying on your resume far outweighs any potential benefits. And this also goes for lying in your submission notes or in slates. If you're tempted to lie about your local hire status or your availability or anything else that has ramifications on the production itself, please don't. Because you could not only compromise your chance of booking this once you get caught in your lie, but you might also burn a bridge with your agent, the casting office, or even the producers and or director of the project. And remember, this is a relationship business. People remember the good impressions and the bad impressions. Okay, look, there are a finite number of acting jobs out there and a bazillion actors vying for those jobs. So I get it. It can feel like a competition. But even for my doppelgangers out there, Ted Huckabee, I don't think of this as a competition against them. Sure, if I had a black heart, I could try to sabotage Ted's career. But I'm assuming most of you out there don't have black hearts. So a professional has been doing this long enough to know that when your craft is on point and you have an understanding of your identity or your authentic self or your brand or whatever you want to call it, that everything beyond that is out of your control. It's also out of the control of your competition. So there's no use in thinking of them that way. In short, a professional knows how to be supportive of their fellow actor. Now, I get it. At higher levels in the industry, there are politics that come into play that can muddy up this discussion. And so you don't want to become too naive about how the industry works. I'm simply making the point that if you're new to the business, then you should not be looking at other actors as competition. Let me sum up the point this way. We love the Steve Martin quote, "Be so good, they can't ignore you." Let that guide you. The temptation at times during your career is to start complaining about agents and casting directors and producers, etc., etc. Believe me, I've been there many times. But check yourself, Matt. If you think you know what it takes to do their job and how they might be able to do it better, unless you've actually walked a mile in their shoes, then chillax. Do people still say chillax? I've spent time working at an agency. I've helped run commercial casting sessions. I've cast independent projects and web series for many, many people, including myself. I've done a ton of editing, I've produced, I've directed, I've composed, I've run production sound and post-production sound, I've helped wardrobe design and production design. I've been a DP, not a good one, and I've even handled craft services. So I can honestly say from experience that every single one of these disciplines is highly complex, and I respect the professionals in each of those fields. So a professional actor does not step outside the lines of their profession to complain about others unless you've actually walked that mile in their shoes and fully understand the complexity of their job. This is where your empathy will guide you, if you let it. So those are just 10 things that we believe professional actors don't do. Hopefully some of these made you think about where you are in your career and perhaps inspire you to take more ownership of your own professionalism. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.